Hello, it's Kate Stillman, and welcome to Wellness Leaders Career Evolution Skills. I'm excited to get rolling today. We have a lot to cover. So I'm just going to dive right in. I know a few people will be showing up late, but we'll have to go back and watch the beginning. So this is the deal. Is there certain skills that we need next? There's certain skills that are more important now than have ever been as important before, and that's what I want to unpack today. Many of you have seen the mind map and all these different sections with all these different breakouts. And what I want to do is kind of pack it in today so that you as a wellness leader get a clear sense of what you'll need next. So this is the deal. As I was preparing to create this workshop, and for those of you who don't know me, let me actually talk about that first. My name's Kate Stillman. I'm CEO and founder of yogahealer.com, which I started back in 2001 with a constant contact list and a Dreamweaver website that I traded to help this guy who was a great Dreamweaver expert and had back pain out of back pain. And he built me my website. I created a little opt-in and started to grow a newsletter list. I was teaching yoga teachers about Ayurveda, and I was teaching Ayurveda people more about yoga, and ended up being this go-between those two communities. And that's largely how yogahealer.com was born. I started blogging maybe 5 years later, probably around 2006. By 2007, I was taking my first course online, the Living Ayurveda course. Other courses I've taught, I started way back in 2002, the Yogi Detox, which went online, maybe around 2010. And this past one, we had 430 participants in. I started yoga health coaching in 2012 and founded the Worldwide Association of Yoga Health Coaches in 2013, and that has grown. Now we have, over 150 people in the 15-month training program. I authored the book Body Thrive and published that last year. It went on to be an Amazon #1 bestseller, and it's continued to do really well in the Ayurveda books category. And it's based on 10 habits to help people thrive and live the kind of life they want. So that's a little bit about me. I have grown yogahealer.com to over $1 million business. It does really well. I understand a lot about business and coaching and coaches and Ayurveda and habits and yoga. So that's been my world for most of my adult life. All right. So that in a little bit gives you a sense of why we're here today and why we're talking about wellness leaders, or why this conversation about, hey, like, what are the skills that wellness leaders need next? Because there's so many different ways that you can spend your time, right? Like, what do you need to make time for? Because there's obviously limited amount of time. If we look at the reality for most wellness leaders today, we know that life is busy. It seems to be getting busier. There's lots of different shiny objects to chase. Will this work or will that work? Everything works, by the way. Like, really, every idea is usually a good idea if you're chasing it. It's just, is it going to work fast enough? Is it the right one for you? There's often then competing priorities if you're going after this and that, competing strategies for impact, competing strategies for income in terms of what you can do in, yes, your limited amount of time. Wait, that's always an issue. And then the big issue is that what we don't know is holding us back. And so my desire today is just to really walk through this map of, hey, as a wellness leader myself and as someone who develops other wellness leaders, these are, 6 major categories, 6 major skill sets that then break down into other skill sets that I sense is where the growing edges are for most wellness leaders. And if they know that, then at least they don't have to tick off that box of what you don't know is holding you back. All right. So when I was preparing for this, I looked at, hey, what are the 5 whys? Anyone who's done the 5 why exercise, maybe a client comes to you and they say, I want to relieve myself of back pain. And you say, why? Why do you want to relieve yourself of back pain? And they say, well, because I've had it for 5 years and I know my life would be better without it. Okay, and then why would your life be better without it? Well, my life would be better without it, right? And you just keep going on the next why. And so I decided to do that for us in this workshop, so we'd all get kind of clear at what's at stake here. So the first why behind why am I teaching this Wellness Leaders Next Skills Set workshop is because the world and our local communities, they need us more than ever. Okay, so that's big. So why does the world and our local communities need us more than ever? Because people are sick and fat and living with dis-ease, right? You don't have to look far to know what I'm talking about. Just go into a major big box store and just look around. Just stand there, absorb the scene, look around, and just simply notice, like, hey, what is going on out there? Oh, wow. People are living with not just, not just obesity, not diagnosed diseases, right? Yes, there's plenty of that happening, but we're living with like low-level chronic imbalances that will become diseases over time. Why are people living with excess weight, with dis-ease in their body? Why are people living with sickness? Here's a big stab at it. Poor habits, overwhelm, and lack of positive influence. We all know what it's like to be around people that are a positive influence on our habits, our mental, emotional, physical, body habits. And we know it's a lot easier to be healthy with healthy people. So that's probably playing into it too. So why are people living with poor habits, overwhelm, and lack of positive influence? That's the next question. And the next why is, my sense is that there's just too many easy choices that lead to future disease. And why are there too many easy choices that lead to future disease? Grand finale, number 5. Because there's increasingly an ease in making choices of convenience, and those choices of convenience work against our common sense and our ancestral wisdom. So there's more choice. The increase in convenient choices, that works against our common sense. And that's a problem, right? You go to the grocery store, you're starving, and there's like lots of really convenient foods around, right? Or you walk into an office and coffee's really convenient. You're kind of low energy, but coffee's really convenient. So instead of getting the kind of sleep you need at night, you put stimulants in your system that'll then wake you up at 2 a.m. So again, going back to why do our communities need us? Why do we need to lead? Because the world and our communities need us more than ever. This is a good exercise to go through on your own and find out, hey, what are the 5 whys you come up with why do I want to be a wellness leader at the next level? Okay, so go through that same exercise is a good thing to do. Get your own wheels churning so that you know why you're here and why you're going to take in and listen to what I am going to say next. So who are you? In general, the people that have come to be my inner circle of wellness leaders have come and, just had great skills as yoga teachers, as holistic body workers, as allopathic doctors, nurses, as nutritionists, as all different kinds of holistic and allopathic wellness providers. And in general, people come because they're looking for a next level of skills so that they can leverage their wellness wisdom. And that's a different set of skills than what helps people be well and what's enabled you to be a leader in the field. So in general, I work with lots of people who are great at what they do, all right, and really great at helping people get healthier in real time. Okay, so I know we're crunched for time here, so I'm going to keep just booking on through and what we're actually going to do here today. So first of all, let's just talk about what does a leader do? And ask yourself that, what does a leader do? So a leader, obviously, by the name, leads, right? And so what is leading? What does leading mean to you? And how does one go about leading? So we know why we're doing it. We know our community and our world needs us. Why? Because increasingly people are making choices that undermine their health, right? Undermine even the most basic body rhythms and body wisdom of sleeping at night and being awake during the day, eating and fasting, drinking water as their primary beverage, moving their body physically every single day, sitting in silence. The most basic habits, most people don't have them, right? And that's why our communities and the world at large needs us, and the world needs us to lead more. So if we look really particular on what does a leader do? Well, a leader actually generates other leaders. And the more I develop it, myself as a leader, I notice this is really true because you'll hit a certain point where unless you're developing leaders, you're going to hit your head against the wall. You're going to find you kind of bump up against something that stagnates your growth, your own glass ceiling of leadership, so to speak. So how does a leader lead? They lead by example. They lead by mentoring. And then largely over time, they lead by developing leaders with what? With a proven system that works, right? Because without a system, it's much harder to lead others. It's much harder to help people get to end results faster. So what I'm going to show you right now, we're going to make a big pivot and we're going to get right into the keynote. Here on the Wellness Leader Mind Map, the first thing we're going to cover is mindset. Then we're going to go into the career guidance, then the tribe you lead, then planning and strategic issues, then enrollment systems, and then leveraging your time. There's not truly in order. What I find as far as the skills go, all 6 of these skills need to be developed, and there's many multiple skills within the big ones. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to go into mindset. Now, the deal with mindset is first and foremost, we need to own our wisdom. So just actually take a moment and stand on your own 2 feet and deepen your breath and absorb how much you really know. We've all put in a lot of time and a lot of focus, awareness, attention, study, time on the cushion, time on the mat, time in the kitchen. For many people, time in detoxing, right? Time to refine who and what you are. And there's a developed wisdom that comes from that. There's a cultured wisdom that is you, right? So when you want to step more into the next level of leadership, you got to be ready to own your wisdom at that next level. And let's now unfold this and see exactly what's needed. The first thing is being all in. This may seem obvious, but I want you to actually energetically notice what that would mean to you. Like, what does it mean for you to be all in at the next level of being a wellness leader? And as you ask yourself that question, you might become aware of little things that you do that actually pull you back, that have you playing a smaller game. But when you own your wisdom and you feel how much you truly know and you decide that you are all in, now you're actually ready for the next level. And there's some skills that go with being all in. There's different skills that help us actualize what that means. But for now, just know that it's a part of it. Now, learning to lead is another part, that there's certain leadership skills that come with owning your wisdom. One of the things that I notice so much in this is being sensitive to the entire group. Let's look here under parts of learning to lead. Is we have to commit, right, to leading. And part of that means that you commit to the group that you're leading. And we'll get more of that into the tribe you lead. But just getting that, like if you really want to be a wellness leader, you've got to be super committed to both the leadership process and also to leading the group that you want to lead. Okay, it's not as good as it gets. This is big, right? So one of the things that I keep noticing as I step into larger levels of leadership is at some point you feel like you're ready for the next thing. And that's part of being all in, is you get it. You get this vision of like, I could do so much more. And that's part of it's not as good as it gets. We start to notice that, hey, what got us here isn't going to get us there. And what got my people to where I've gotten them isn't going to necessarily work on the next larger size of group. So we start to see where we can make improvements, where there's going to be traction for the next level. The next thing is we step into community, to tribe as a wellness leader. And this is part of obviously committing to leading. The more we get that we are leading a group, what is this group all about? Well, that's where tribe starts to open up. Some people love that word tribe. If you don't, find the word that works for you. Community might just be a little too loose and a little too big. When I talk about the yoga healer tribe or the yoga health coaching tribe, which is in many ways a smaller subsector of the yoga healer tribe, I know exactly the size of the group, the feeling of the group, the values of the group. All of that is how I step into leading the tribe as a leader, right? As to knowing who we are. And there's a lot of actually building the container around that. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. And obviously leading by example. And this is huge. I mean, we all can think of a leader that didn't walk the talk and it backfired, right? Eventually that backfires. And that's not just the reason to do it because you don't want it to backfire, but just the most obvious reason is you want to be in integrity with yourself as a human being. The larger you grow your tribe, the more there's at stake for not being in integrity as a human being. So the more we get clear on committing to lead, the more we up our own possibility of integrity. And once we start to understand that relationship, a lot of things open up. As we become more integrated, we become a more powerful leader. So it's really a beautiful dovetail of natural evolutionary skills. Okay, so other parts of the mindset of owning your wisdom, developing your voice. And this is something that takes time. You want to speak like a pro. You want to drop your ums, your likes, and certain words that you might use that might actually be a big turnoff for other people. Words for me, that was amazing, absolutely. Words that I might say, but not actually mean, right? I might say, oh, it's amazing, but if everything's amazing, then nothing is amazing. So developing our voice, developing our speech, knowing how to use our voice to create a container for transformation for other people, just necessary skills in leadership. The reason I wanted to start with mindset and owning your wisdom is it's important to get the fun stuff. Like if we had started way over here on the other side of the map with like planning and strategic issues, and we started with quarterly goals and tracking, and we went into enrollment systems and went into like this whole mess over here, it would be way less fun. So let's enjoy being over in the mindset side of the spectrum as far as skills to go forward. All right, building your processes, building your platform, really important. Are the processes different than platform? Absolutely. So the platform is how people connect with you. You got to build the structure for the tribe. For me, that's a podcast, that's a blog, that's a website. It's actually 2 blogs. It's a website, it's a newsletter. That's the platform, right? That's the platform for me to lead. What is your platform? So just write down, what are you using for your platform? Maybe you're using Facebook. Maybe you're using Instagram. Maybe you're using WhatsApp. Like, what are you using to communicate and to connect with the people that you're leading? That's your platform. So what does the next level of your platform look like? And anyone who wants to get clear on like, okay, these are skills that I need, and you're thinking, I don't have a platform or my platform's not working so well, then just circle. So you've all hopefully printed out this mind map. Now circle that one. Circle to build your platform if that's a black hole. Circle develop your voice if that needs some work, right? Just circle if you're not quite sure how committed you are, knowing if your commitment isn't there, then that's going to be a problem. Now, building your processes, this goes often for most of us over on the planning and strategic issues just because it's simply not happening, which makes it need to happen in the future. So we need processes for how we actually lead people. How do we help people get healthier? If we don't have processes around there that we can test and measure and improve on, we will only get so far in our leadership. Okay, so I hope all of this is somewhat obvious by now and makes some sort of sense. But for now, just know, like, circle the ones that are the most obvious. All right. Next, we're going to dive into career guidance. Okay, next, on the next part of Wellness Leader Mind Map, we have guiding your career. Now, guiding your career, I'm just going to quickly blip this out. Who is holding your vision, right? This is a big part. So if we look at, hey, you want to grow your vision. So there's going to be a component of that if you can quickly rattle off exactly who is holding your vision and the timeline and the accountability, like, cool, you're cool with that. But if you can't, it's really important to look at that. And I'll go through a few components. Then finding out what you don't know and your goals. So let's dive right into this. So if we have who's holding your vision, for me, there's a few things I look for right away in the people that I guide and mentor is do they have a guide or mentor? If they're working with me, I can check that off. Who are you working with? So who is mentoring or guiding your vision into the next level of leadership? And if you can't answer that, then I would start shopping around. I would start looking. And I wouldn't actually look for someone that you're not paying because they will be less invested. The more invested they are, the more likely it is that you are going to get there. And the more they probably have a system with proven results, hopefully, if you've shopped around, that can get you there. So that's important. It's not the only thing, though. Just to have a guide or a mentor and not have a peer group, it doesn't work. And we know anyone who's worked in wellness knows that when there's a group going in the same direction together, that it's much easier, it's more fun, but it's also way more effective for the group members. I learned when actually reading a time strategy productivity book called The 12-Week Year, which I love and use in my coaching groups, that in a wellness study, it was interesting. People with a life-threatening illness who met with a guide or mentor, in this case, the guide or mentor was their doctor, and was told, like, hey, if you don't change your habits, you're going to die. And much, much sooner. It was a short period of time. They needed to take drastic action, the people in this particular study. And so they said, but the guide mentor here, the doctor said, if you change your habits, and these are the biggest habits you need to change, then you'll actually be all right, and you'll lead a decent life. Well, only 10% of people that receive that information in that group of people that were acting just one-on-one with their doctor actually made the changes, and the rest didn't make the changes. So you can imagine what happened. Okay, so in another group that was truly a group, they brought the people together and said, hey, we're going to create a peer support group with you, and we're going to give you the same information, but we're going to give it to you with peers. The success rate went from 10% to upwards of 70%, right? 70 towards 80%. So there was literally a 70% improvement rate. Just through what? Just through not just being told the information, but being guided with a peer group through the changes. So if you have this idea of your wellness career at the next level and you don't have a peer group with some structure and with some, I would say with some people using the same system that you're using, it's going to work against you, because there's too much information and there's distraction with having peers that are all doing different things. There can be a lot of distraction. If you're all using the same system, then it's just much easier to get on the same page to compare notes. Hey, this worked for me. Is it working for you? Oh, you haven't done that part yet. That part's really important. That really worked for me. And if you haven't done that, I can see why you're stuck, right? People just to have those kinds of conversations with, it's how important is it? It's 70% to your success important, right? The numbers are out there. Okay, and then as far as guiding your career and who's holding your vision, there's a structure. There should be a structure that it is actually holding your vision. So a lot of people think, well, if my vision's just out there, how do I put a structure to it? Well, there should be certain steps that you're working through to achieve your vision. There should be a structure to how you are going to up-level your wellness career. And if there's not that, then again, this is going to be a black hole. Just like when we looked into owning your wisdom, if you're not developing your voice, then that is going to also be a black hole. So with any of these, it's like the black holes they can be all over the place. What you want to do right now is just notice, like, what are they? If there's not actually a structure to your vision and implementation, that's going to be a problem. Okay, so next on guiding your career, you want to find out what you don't know. And with finding out what you don't know, there's creating of the container, the model, the marketing, and the upsell. So this is a big deal, and we'll get more into this later in systems and strategic issues and using your time. But it goes somewhat like this. As you start to want to guide your career to the next level, and you get that, like, okay, I need some other people to hold my vision. I need a mentor or guide. I need peers doing the same thing. And I need a structure for A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E for me to get to where I want to go if I want to get to D in my career as a wellness leader. If we got that, okay, then we got who's holding the vision. Now, finding out what we don't know. If you don't know about how to have a container for those you're leading, that's a problem. If you don't know the model that you're using and the models that you're not using, then that's a problem. If you don't know what kind of marketing is going to work well for that, for your tribe, for your model, then that's not going to work. And if you don't have an upsell or a way to get more engagement so that people who are wanting to engage at a higher level can separate themselves from people who are engaging at a lower level, then that's going to be a problem too. So that's all part of finding out what you don't already know. Okay. Now, next, your goals. So your goals are going to guide your career. Just knowing what is my A to D? Like, where do I want to go? And for some of you, it's going to be like, I honestly want to double my income. I want to make more money because I know people need what I've got. And I just know that it's worth quite a bit if I could just figure out how to do it. If I could figure out the model, if I could figure out the structure for getting from here to there. And this is part of not knowing what you don't know, is it's not just knowing the structure, but it's knowing all the things you need to do to put the structure in place and really to learn it. So then if you know it though, if you're like, hey, there's a structure for this, I can double my income, I'm going to change my structure from what I'm currently doing, or I'm going to leverage some things that I'm currently doing that are working well and take out some of the things that are taking up a lot of time and not working as well, then if you know your A to D, in this case, you're going to want to set a timeline. You're going to want to identify the new skills. And that's hard because you don't know what you don't know. And it's so much easier to look back and see what skills you've developed. Say even just look at your own wellness path. Everyone here has been on a personal wellness journey, and go back to when you were starting out and what you thought you needed to learn. and then keep that on one side of the paper, and then on the other side of the paper, write what you actually needed to learn in your own words now. And see, yeah, some things will be right on, but then there could be some gaps of like, oh, I didn't know that I need to learn how to like batch task my time in the kitchen more effectively. Or I didn't know that I would need to learn about getting to know the plants that grow outside my door, right? I didn't know that, And so it's the hard thing about not knowing what you don't know. But to some degree, you can think like, I'm probably going to need social media skills, right? Like the whole world is more or less online now. I'm probably going to need certain skills in terms of having someone help me out along the way with the things that I don't know that are maybe on the more techie side. So you have an idea of those skills and get those skills down. Write down what are those skills. Okay, now with your goals, you're also going to want someone to keep you accountable. That's where a mentor or guide, that's where peer support, well-organized peer support is very, very effective. It's also when you're thinking about doing this for the people that you're helping out, like how are you holding them accountable? What is the timeline that you get them from where they're at to where they want to be? What new skills do they need to learn along the way, right? So everything I'm saying to you so far in this will actually translate to you helping your people take more responsibility for themselves on the wellness journey. Okay, the next part is with your goals is troubleshooting. And this is something that we intuitively know, but often don't really think about, is that the path, as smooth as a path can be, there's going to be rough spots. Why? Because there's certain things that you don't know that you're going to run into, and how you handle that, how you handle those things that are going to be challenging or difficult for you to pick up in order to step onto the next level of your wellness leadership. That's really going to happen through troubleshooting, right? You're going to run into these things and you're going to need to troubleshoot your way around it. Well, and there's competing priorities for your time and your energy and whatnot. So as you go to hit your goals, you're going to need to troubleshoot along the way. The more you kind of plan that in advance of like, I'm going to be trying something new, I'm going to need to actually schedule in time with troubleshooting. I'm probably going to need to troubleshoot with my mentor, troubleshoot with my peer support group. The more that you get like, oh my gosh, who is holding my vision? Do I have a peer support group? Do I have a mentor or guide? And do I have a structure of a program? Because the structure can also very much help us troubleshoot our way through it. And the same thing really is true for the people that you're working with. If you don't have the structure and they run into their wall, their boulder in the middle of the path, and there's no structure for them to troubleshoot with, then you're creating inefficiencies. I hate to say it that way, but I do experience it that way, that we can create inefficiencies on the path of our tribe members. Okay, so let's get into that next. Okay, here we are, Wellness Leader Mind Map. We've gone through mindset, we've gone through guide your career, now we're on the tribe you lead. Let's pop that puppy open. Okay, so this is the deal. We actually ran a webinar. I ran a webinar about a little over a year ago on building your tribe as a wellness leader. If you haven't seen that, I actually recommend that you do. We'll include the links in the follow-up emails for this. So the tribe you lead, this is becoming a bigger and bigger deal, and part of it is it's just awesome what's happened in the world of technology, enabling us to become more interconnected and more specific around who we are connecting with. So over time at Yoga Healer and Yoga Health Coaching, you can tell by the words that are in there, you're going to hear a few words. You're going to hear yoga and you're going to hear health or healing or healer, right, in there. So there's something about yoga and there's something about heal. And so in general, what I look at in terms of my tribe is seasoned wellness people, seasoned yoga people, seasoned healers, like people who've been around a bit. And if I were just to distill my tribe into 3 words, it's seasoned yoga students. Now, every yoga teacher is a yoga student, and most people who come in contact with Yoga Healer, not all, but most are doing some sort of yoga. And if we look at the root of what yoga is unity. Yoga is the bringing together of, in many ways, the conscious and the unconscious. Yoga is bringing together the smaller self with the higher self. So anyone who's on a path of awakening, in my experience, is doing yoga. So I'm working with people who've been on this path for awakening for a while. I don't attract the newbies. We don't try to pull newbies into the tribe because we have a more seasoned tribe in general. That's just me. Your tribe's going to be different. Maybe the tribe you lead is people who are into essential oils and want to lose weight? Like, I don't know. But that's one thing that you want to start to ask yourself is exactly who are you into, and where is tribe different than niching? And there's so much overlap here. I don't want to get into the differences, but and really, when I sense tribe, there's different words for it in different languages. In Sanskrit, we often will use the word kula, or community of the heart. And this is where collective values really get in. So, so with collective values, I'm just going to show you for a moment. We're going to go for a little surfing web tour here. So in terms of community values at Yoga Healer, when I sat down to really think and look at like what are our community values, it was pretty clear because over the course of starting Yoga Healer back in 2001, I was driven by connecting planetary wellness and planetary thrive with humans wellness and human thrive with the personal. And I did this through my background before I came into yoga and Ayurvedic medicine. I was working in climate change politics with global warming policy in Washington, D.C. And I'd been obsessed with basically much larger scale, like planetary thrive since being a teenager. So my background, when I typed in is yogahealer.com taken and with GoDaddy back in 2001. I can't remember if it was GoDaddy or not actually. Right? But I was doing it for that reason. So what we do at Yoga Healer is we spread personal and planetary thrive. That's our mission. That's what we do. Right? So that was clear. People that aren't into that are really not going to be into anything I do. They're not going to be a part of the tribe. So I don't worry about those people. I worry about the tribe. Now, we came up with a few values that just reflected what we were already doing. And this is the thing about your community values is they will do that. And I have a special training just on that, but don't worry about that right now. What you want to start thinking of is like, what are the values your community holds? Part of ours are we guide people into their potential. We raise our own bar. This is part of being a wellness leader, right? Like raise your own bar. Own your results. This is part of being a wellness leader, right? You want to raise your own bar. You want to align your actions, right? To be able to clear that next level of who you're becoming. And you want to own your results of, hey, this is where I've come from. This is who I am. This is what I know. This is how I can help others get to the same level that I'm at now or where I was just shortly ago, right? So that's another one of our values. I'm just going to rattle them off. We connect the personal with the planetary. I already went into that. We learn, master, record, share, and mentor. Mentoring is a big part of our method. We inspire through connectivity and innovation. We embrace challenges as evolutionary adventures. So like when it's like when the going gets tough, we like at it as an adventure. Like, hey, we're going to get going. We nurture and co-create with the tribe. We're really into collective leadership. We communicate with candor and care. We live the habits. These are habits based on Ayurveda and yoga. They're very simple habits around eating a little earlier and lighter so that we can digest our food well and create really good, strong bodily tissue. We go to bed earlier. We start the day right, including hydrating, eliminating, and opening our awareness to a bigger perspective. We do breath body practices. We eat a plant-based diet. We sit in silence. There's certain habits. There's 10 of them. They're in my book, Body Thrive, if you're curious about the other ones, that we do as a tribe, and we support each other in. Why? Because these are the proven habits for Homo sapiens and longevity on an enlightenment path. And so that's what we do. And we do it against testing our own self of noticing like, hey, does this work for me? And what most people find, actually everyone in the tribe has found, is that, yeah, indeed, these habits who've worked for yogis over the last 4,000+ years work for me too, even in the modern era. What do you know? And we orient towards thrive. And this is like one of our big ones is no matter what comes up, we just orient. Where's thrive here? Where's thrive as a wellness leader? Right? And that's just part of our values. So again, back to this. No, and start to codify your collective values. When you do, you know what your message is. Like right now, my message to wellness leaders is like, hey, you need to develop other leaders in your work, right? And as you do that, they will actually help you lead more. Why? Because for you to develop them, you're going to need a better system. You're going to need a better vision. You're going to need to lead like a pro. Right? There's certain skills that you're going to need to do it at the next level. And part of that is you're going to have to be very clear in what your message is. Okay, the tribe that you lead, you want to know their accomplishments and their growing edges. So like I said before, I work in general with seasoned yoga students. They may also be yoga teachers. Every yoga teacher considers themselves a student, right? I'm in that boat. I taught yoga for close to 15 years, and who's a yoga student? Like we all are, right? Always. But we also want to own our accomplishments. So I'm saying, well, I know how to do practices in alignment with my physiology, to open my energy body, to create a peaceful, expansive state of mind, to connect well with others, plays nice with others, right? These certain things, we want to own our accomplishments. For you and the tribe you lead, you need to know their accomplishments, right? Because that actually helps you take on new members, because it's like, hey, this is what we do around here. Right? These are things we're either trying to accomplish or have already accomplished. And then the growing edges. And this is where, like this workshop, we're going to get into more growing edges, but I hopefully am pointing out a number of growing edges that you have. And we'll see more in the planning and strategic issues, the enrollment system, and leveraging your time. Okay, now the big one, how to call in your tribe. Like the tribe you lead, you need to be able to bring people in who want to be members. And I don't mean members like sign up, paid, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, that's a part of it. And we'll go into that in just a minute. But even more so than that is like really just looking at how are people going to find you? If we want to lead at the next level, then that actually means that usually we want to grow our tribe. We want to grow the number of people that we're working with. Why? Because our communities need us. The world needs us. Why? That goes back to the 5 whys. Let's just look at that again, really quick refresher, right? We have the world and our communities need us more than ever. People are sick, fat, and living with disease. Why? Because of poor habits, overwhelm, and lack of positive influence. You have a space here to become a more positive influence. Number 4, too many easy choices that lead to future disease. Like this is what most people are up against, is they're just making the most easy decision. They're overwhelmed. There's too much going on. There's not enough time. They're just making the next easy choice. And over time, those choices that they're making lead to being fat and sick and diseased, right? And why is all that happening is because it's just convenient, right? It's convenient, but it goes against our common sense and our ancestral wisdom and our biorhythms. So how to call in your tribe. We're going to look at that more with enrollment systems. So I'm going to leave that. But to some degree, you just got to be thinking like, how are people going to be finding me if I don't articulate my values or our collective values? If I don't know what the key components of our message are, if I don't really know how to articulate the accomplishments of the people I lead and the growing edges so people know, hey, this is what's going to be next. And, it's like when you're going to climb a mountain and you have a mountain guide and they're like, we got to get a start on it because in 2 hours there's this gnarly section and I want you to be awake and aware and ready for it. This is going to be a little bit skillful. And then after that, another hour easy walking, and then we're going to take a little rest, and then it's going to be another tricky section, right? That's super helpful. Those growing edges are super helpful for your tribe to know. So if you know all that and you know how to call your people in, then we can get into what I call community evolution. So let's open that little leaf up there. So community evolution is, how does your community evolve? If you know the accomplishments and the growing edges, you can say like, okay, after lunch, we've got this other tricky section, but after that, we're going to be here, and this is what we're going to see, and this is how you're going to feel, and this is why you want to get there, right? So that's part of the evolution, that there's somewhere to go here. Again, the growing edges, the pain points, and the breakthroughs are so important to the tribe, that you know those, that you can articulate those, because that helps you to guide the way. Okay, more on tribe in just a minute as we go into enrollment systems. Okay, so what does a wellness leader do? Now we're going to the other side of the map. Hopefully that was the fun side, mindset, guiding your career and the tribe. Now we get into some of the more nitty gritty. And again, as you're taking this workshop, hopefully you've printed your mind map and you're just drawing some circles around, hey, this is something that I need to develop. These are some of the skills that are not on my radar. Now, the bigger skill sets that aren't on your radar and don't sound like much fun, I hate to say it, but that's where you're going to get the most traction. Why is that? Because your natural desire, like some of you are like, oh, I'm going to own my wisdom. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to develop my voice more and blah, blah, blah. If you've already worked on that a bit and that's super fun for you, then like let that alone. Chances are that's not going to be the thing that's going to get you the most leverage in your leadership, right? And that's what this is about. This is about wellness leaders stepping it up. Why? Our communities need us. The world needs us. Why? We already went through it twice. Hopefully you got it by now. Okay, so this side of the equation as a culture, right? I love the word cult, culture, because there's something in there that shows processes of development over time in a group. That's really what culture means. All right, when you create a food culture, it's like these little microorganisms get awoken and start to breed and get to know each other, become more complex and more healing over time. It's why 100-year-old miso paste is incredible, right? Same thing with 100-year-old ghee. Why? Because it's been acculturated. So in our cult here at Yoga Healer and Yoga Health Coaching, in our culture, this is the side that we need the most work on. So I hope you pay attention. For some of you, you might need to like stand up and do some jumping jacks and get the blood flowing, get your psych on, because this is where some of these circles you might start to need to circle are going to appear. This is where you might notice like, oh my gosh, I want to go to sleep. This doesn't sound like fun. But if you tune up and tune in, these certain areas, that's where you're going to have leverage. That's where you're going to see the most amazing growth in yourself. Okay, so let's get into this. Planning and strategic issues. That's on top on this section. The next node, it unfolds into annual and quarterly priorities and goal tracking. So let's talk a little bit about this. Let me bring this back in there. There we go. Okay, so first of all, knowing what you can tackle in a certain period of time. This is clued into your goals, right? But how do you know of all the goals that you could have, where the most leverage is going to come in? And that's where having a good annual review, really looking at like, hey, what are my accomplishments? What are my lessons learned? What are my strengths, my weaknesses? What are some of the opportunities, for me right now? Really, what are some of the threats in my, in my community, that things that may have worked before might not work in the future because of? And going through a process where you look at those things and you start to identify 1 to 3 annual priorities. These are the 1 to 3 things that you are going to work on next. And usually, for most of us wellness leaders out there, they're going to fall under a few categories. And these are the ones that I find most often. One might be tribe size. This is the number of people that you're influencing. I'm going to go ahead and put this on top because actually, while many of us may have revenue on top like I did, it truly isn't part of our values. Like the value of impact is greater than the value of income for this tribe here. So while we might say something like, I want to make twice as much money, and while that might be really true, if you go through the 5 whys, you're going to quickly get to why, because you want to influence more people with what you know. You want to see your community get healthier, and that means that you're going to work with twice as many people, or you're going to work with people at a much more committed price point, and you're going to get more revenue in exchange. Why? Because you're simply exchanging more value in the marketplace. So the more value you exchange, the more your revenue will increase, and that's a big priority for you. But when you get to the end of it, usually it's going to come back to tribe, that you are leading more people on a deeper path. Okay, so that's why we did a switcheroo down there. Now it reflects more of our priorities, right? That we want to increase our impact. And when you really feel into it, like how many people do you work with? I know for me, the people that are in serious courses annually, there's right now about 225 people in like my serious courses on an annual basis. And I have scaled and have, I have a lot of different things going on and whatnot. But at the end of the day, that's not very many people. There's 30,000 people on my email list, but I only work with 200 people seriously a year. Yeah, and things like the Yogi Detox, we may have 400 or 500 people go through a 3-week process, right? But that's not on these deeper levels. And we're going to look at that more with having different levels of people working through courses and working through processes. Okay, so we may also have a goal in terms of revenue. And that is a great goal because, again, you're exchanging value. Do you want to exchange $60,000 worth of value in the marketplace? Or do you want to exchange $100,000 worth of value in the marketplace? Or do you want to do a leap? I remember when I made the leap from $100,000 to $250,000 worth of value, and from $250,000 to $500,000 worth of value. And some of you, you're like, oh my gosh, no, like that just sounds big and complicated. I just want to get from $20,000 worth of value to $50,000 worth of value over 2 years. Like that's what I want. That's how much value I want to exchange for my wisdom and my care. And I just need to figure out how this next year to get from 20 to 30 in a way that'll then scale from 30 to 50. Like fine, be it. Like choose your numbers. It's up to you, and it's up to you the timeline as well. But you want to also base it on some experience. Your annual priorities might be on building and testing your process. Way back over here in your career, we talked about part of it is you're going to want to, let me see what I can do here. Oh, I got to swing this one over. Who's holding your vision, right? This whole part of having a structure to your vision is so important. And what does that mean? Like you have a program that works. So if we swing the pendulum over here, that might be an annual priority for you, is that you want to build and test your process. In yoga health coaching, we all use the same process. We all use the 10 habits of Body Thrive and the behavioral science that I've pulled out of Stanford and other places that work really well for helping human beings evolve their habits quickly, right? So we use those processes in a course, in a structure that we've tested over time, and it works. So either you build your own structure or you join something like yoga health coaching that gives you a structure that has already been tested, and then you just implement, in which case that wouldn't be on your priority. That would be already done. Okay, then tribe nurturance is looking at like what we went over here before. I'm just going to keep swinging now on different sides of the pendulum. Don't mind my little screen. It gets a little messy as I do this, but we'll work through it. So remember over here, we talked about accomplishments of the tribe you're leading and their growing edges. We talked about community evolution and their pain points and their breakthroughs. And we talked about calling in your tribe and your values and your message. Well, all of that swings on over here to tribe nurturance and next action. Right, that you're gonna want to then take some of that and think through, like, how can I help my people evolve? How can I name our accomplishments and nurture our growing edges in a way that makes sense and is systematic and actually helps the tribe grow? Well, if that's a priority for you to grow your tribe, then tribe nurturance and the next actions to do that are probably going to be, one of your top 3 priorities. And again, if you don't know your 3 annual priorities, then the next shiny object comes around. Remember before, and I'm just going to click back to the slides here, we went through some of the big things that happen. The reality is life is busier, shiny object syndrome, everything works, there's competing priorities, and you don't know what's holding you back. So shiny object syndrome, like if you don't know your 1 to 3 annual priorities, the 1 to 3 things that's going to help you take your wellness leadership to the next level, you're going to get taken down by one of these, right? Either life's going to get busy and you won't have time to do one of those priorities because you haven't really articulated it and you haven't unfolded how it's going to break down into quarterly priorities. We're going to get into that next, right? Or you just don't know, like you just are going to chase the wrong shiny object. And that, I imagine, has happened to you already. So just take that as a lesson learned and build that into your annual strategic planning, right? That's the name of the game here. And then you're going to want to choose, like, of these 3, what is number 1? What is number 2? What is number 3? It's recommended not to have more than 3 because then it gets too confusing. And then of those 3, once you have them prioritized, right? Priority, what comes first, what comes second, what comes third. To know percentage-wise, like what percentage of time, awareness, resources are you going to put into that? Does tribe size get 50%? Does revenue get 60%? Like what part gets what? And just know that for you in language that works. And maybe you come up with something that's not on here. That's fine. Just put that on there. Those are your priorities. Okay, we're still in strategic planning issues. Now we're going into quarterly planning. Once we know our annual plan, we can break it down into quarterly plans. So having a rhythm where each quarter you are reviewing your annual plan, you're reviewing those priorities, you're reviewing like what comes first, how much time, attention, resources, and then you're saying like, hey, a part of that is like, I'm accountable. Like, how well did that go for me last quarter? And if it didn't go so well, then you need to see like, what do I need to do differently now? And if it went really well, great, how can I leverage what I learned? Then having I have the AL, SWOT, and SMART. So A stands for accomplishments, L stands for lessons learned, S stands for strength, W stands for weaknesses, O stands for opportunities, T stands for threats. I'm not going to go into it. Just Google SWOT, Google SMARTS. SMARTS is then how you take your priorities and your quarterly planning and you break them down into basically like a shorter version of goals that are specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and bound by time. So basically you end up with a really fancy to-do list that lays out the next quarter. And when you have that, now you've given yourself a little bit of structure. I know for me, like I actually got pretty far without doing a lot of this stuff. But if I had done it sooner, I would have had a lot more free time on my hands. Okay, goal tracking. This last part of planning and strategic issues. With goal tracking, this ties into this accountability part, but I broke it off into one of three things. Why? Because you could honestly like get by without doing your annual planning or your quarterly planning very well and just start tracking the things you need to track, right? Do you have integrity with your calendar? Do you do the things that you put on your calendar? And you could say, yeah, sure. Like I schedule my yoga classes and I show up on time to teach every yoga class, or I never miss an appointment with a client. But I'm talking about the other stuff. Like, do you actually schedule in your planning, your priorities? Do you schedule in all the tribe building stuff we've talked about? And if you don't, then, and you need to do it, then you don't have calendar integrity. What should be on your calendars, the things that you need to do to be a wellness leader at the next level, right? So if you start to do that, then you'll notice if you start to do that, you'll notice that there's certain things that you still don't do. And those are the hard, sticky things. Those are the things that are like really are not fun or really are not appealing to you because they're boulders in the road, right? There's certain things you're going to have to work through. If you actually schedule the time in to work through those things, you'll start to have the next level of calendar integrity, which is what we should all aspire for because it is a mythical, magical reality we can all experience. Okay, giving yourself a scorecard. How are you doing on meeting your goals? And say one of your goals is to increase your tribe size, and maybe you're measuring that by your, like maybe you have a few metrics for that. One is your email list, and one is your so number of people on your email list, and another is the number of people in your next course that you're teaching, right? And maybe your email list you're wanting to grow from whatever, 1,000 to 2,000 or 500 to 1,000, whatever your numbers are, right? And then maybe your next course, you're wanting to have 20 people enrolled by whatever's 2 months from now, right? Well, how are you scoring yourself? And then how do you break those things down into measurable actions that you can report on each week? Maybe you're growing your list through using Facebook ads to an opt-in. Not a bad idea. But how are you measuring? Are you measuring the number of people you're getting in each week? And are you doing some little testing to see if you can increase those numbers for less money? So that might be some things that you might want to score. Scoring on number of people coming into your next course. Like what are the small actions, if you were to do them reliably, because you have calendar integrity, that would actually give you the kind of enrollment that you want in the, again, in the most fun, easy, and effective way. Okay, so that is a very, very quick, hopefully, kickstart for planning and strategic issues. Okay, next let's go into enrollment systems, because this has a lot to do with whether or not we can lead. Part of being a leader is getting people to engage at deeper levels of what you are offering, right? And we all know that like one of the biggest issues for wellness leaders is getting people committed enough to go when the going gets hard, to go to their goals, right? So it's like the example again of how many people that you're working with are making choices based on convenience versus choices aligned to their deeper goals, even if it's inconvenient. And most people, they think it takes discipline or willpower or whatnot, but actually it has so much to do with the kind of structure they have around them, the kind of tribe, the kind of peer support that they are experiencing. And again, that's up to you to develop. We already went through how that ties into your planning and strategic issues, to develop that kind of structure and tribe and peer support for your people to hit their wellness targets, and for you to know their accomplishments, their pain points, and their growing edges, right? So now let's look at how do we actually get not everybody in the tribe deeper down the funnel, though that's not a bad idea, but how do we actually call in the people that are most ready, like saying like, I want this shift now. So like, for instance, with this wellness leaders next level skill set webinar, I first of all, I didn't say like, hey, if you're a wellness teacher, right? I didn't use the word teacher or wellness guide. I didn't use those words. I used the word leader. Why? Because I wanted to call in people that were already at a certain level, right? You're already seasoned in what you do. You already know you can help people. That's not it. It's saying like, okay, what is it like to lead at the next level? So by being in many ways really specific with how we help people self-identify as like, whoa, I'm ready for the next level now. Like I'm tired of, like I hit my max out on this lower level. Been there, done that. It's fine. It's fun. But, you know, again, if we go into strategic planning, bam, right? We have usually one of these. We want a bigger tribe. We want more revenue. We want to build and test a better process. Or we want to nurture a tribe at the next level. So if we apply that, you know, if we look at that, like what is the equivalent of that for your enrollment system? How are you going to call the kind of people in that you want to work with at the next level? And where is it exactly that they want to go? And part of doing that really well is building a funnel for that to happen, building an experience or a process that helps the right people get attuned, attracted, and excited, right? They have to get excited about like, hey, wow, that next level that I sort of was thinking about, that's a priority for me right now. Like I want that more than everything. Like when I am talking to, the other night I was actually I was at a cocktail party, truth be told. And I was standing there and this guy comes up to me who I taught a workshop in Puerto Vallarta, I don't know, 5 years ago. I've only taught a few workshops in the area, 2 to be specific, one in Sayulita, one in Vallarta. And they were both about 5 years ago before I went completely online. 20 minutes. Yeah. That was my precious 8-year-old wanting to go surfing. All right. So before I went completely online, anyways, I taught this workshop and he was there. And then he was at this cocktail party 5 years ago and he comes up to me, hey, Kay. I'm like, hey, Lalo, oh my gosh, amazing to see you. And I luckily remembered his name. That was incredible. And we start talking, and there's so much that he was like, oh, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to do that. And a lot of his desires were competing. Remember how when we looked at this, that we have competing priorities? And that can be a big problem. And then there's this other big part that we'll get into is what you don't know is holding you back. Well, I'm showing you all the things that you need to know. So whatever you don't know on here, hopefully that won't hold you back as much in the future because you're drawing circles on the page and scribbling notes and figuring this out. So if we don't have an enrollment system, and as I was talking with this dear healer, I realized like, oh, he doesn't have an enrollment system that can attract the people that are most ready to take advantage of his services. And what does it mean to take advantage? To like really be advantaged by all of the wisdom that he's accumulated and processed over the years. So if we have a good system to work with once people are enrolled, then part of the next part of the game is like, how do we get actually people into the system to then enroll them, right? So the enrollment system part is building it, like building a funnel for people to get interested and excited and decide like, okay, of these competing priorities, this is the one I really want to work on next. And for some people, that's going to be, I really want to double my revenue. Or for other people, it's going to be, I really want to double the number of people I'm working with. Or I want to work with these people in a much deeper way, and that's a bigger priority. And for some people, it's just like career versus learning to surf or whatever, you know, like just deciding like what comes first, what comes second. So part of our enrollment system, no matter what we're doing here as wellness leaders, has to be a funnel that helps people decide, that helps people prioritize. Okay, first this, and second, then this, and third, then this, right? And helps them walk themselves down the funnel if indeed their priority is to feel better soon. And maybe you put a time on it, like you want to feel better in 10 weeks versus you want to feel better in 6 months. You're ready to take action on this now versus you're ready to take action on this next year. And you know that the people you want to work with are ready to take action now, right? Then you've got to build that into your funnel. Then once you've got a good funnel that escorts the right people through to the next step, then you want to generate traffic to that funnel. We're not going to get that much into this here. I'll just break it out. There's strategic campaigns, word of mouth, Facebook ads, opt-ins. All those are are really good things. You can watch other webinars on that. It's part of the process we use in yoga health coaching. And then having conversations or informative interviews. This is something I'm going to collapse this so you don't get distracted. That is a really, really big deal, that we want to then sit down and talk to people and find out, A, is this truly a priority for them? And what are some of the competing priorities that, like, when the going gets tough, they're going to be up against? Because once we know what those are, then we can start to find out, okay, now are they ready to invest right now? What are going to be some of the problems of how they're going to invest in working at the next level? And most people have investment issues, and it doesn't come off and people say, like, oh, I don't have the money or I don't have the time. If you're getting time or money objections and you already have a good funnel and are generating traffic, to me that just means your conversations aren't going deep enough. It means they don't trust you. They don't trust that investing in you at that level will work. So that's not a problem. It just means that that's, put a circle around that, like, okay, I gotta have better conversations with people. Now the real cool thing about when you have these conversations in a skillful way is that you start to build trust. Someone's ready. They want to invest in themselves right now, and then you can build trust. Like, is this actually a good fit? You might not know, and you might not be a good fit, but that's part of this process of building trust. Is you start to learn deep enough about them to know whether or not they're actually going to be a good fit for you to work with, if you can actually get them to the next level or not. You might not be able to, and that's okay. Refer out, right? We don't work with everybody that applies for our courses, like, by far. The people that help me with admissions at Yoga Healer and Yoga Health Coaching, I'm like, if you can't make everybody an offer, it means that you're not doing your job. Like, there's certain people that'll come in to our funnel, will really think they're a great fit and they're prioritized and they're ready, but the end of the day, they're not going to do the work. And I don't want, like, my peer support groups are based on people that are willing to do the work. My guidance is based on people that are going to do what they need to do when the going gets tough to hit their heart's goals, right? The big things that'll help get them around the boulders. Okay. So part of the conversations is you want to know your timeline. Again, some people might be a better fit for something you're going to be leading in 6 months or a year. You're going to want to have an idea in your head of the timeline of when people start with you, when they stop, some of the different components of how you work with them along the way, and how the readiness of them coming into your timeline works. I hope that makes sense. It's like, even for you, if you think about it as a wellness leader, of all the things that you've circled, just look down on your piece of paper, and you might see, okay, like I need to do some of these things over here. I need to do some of these things over there, some of these things over here. What's my timeline? Like, how serious am I? What's hanging out in my top 3 priorities? And where am I at exactly in a process of needing to go deeper? And that's part of what should happen in a conversation, is that you start to find out all of that information from the person and see how they fit into your timeline, how their timeline and your timeline match up, and then where the best place to make an appropriate offer for them to go deeper into their wellness through working with you. Okay, now the next thing, follow through the 13-time rule. To order build trust, you need a lot of points of contact. There's a 13 times rule, meaning, like, if you're not making contact with someone 13 times, then they can't build trust with you. So just think about that. Like, think of anything that you thought, like, oh yeah, I just jumped into that wholehearted, and you go back through your mind, like, how many points, they may have been like little touch points, right? Little points of contact, little things. It could have been an email, could have been a phone call, it could have been something you received in the mail. And that helped you realize that, like, oh, this person is a authority on this. There's someone, they're a go-to person for me to potentially work with to hit my next levels of goals. All right, so that's a little bit about enrollment systems. If you don't have them, you need them. Okay, so again, we're just going to back up. Mindset, guide your career, the tribe you lead, strategic planning, enrollment systems. Now we're going to work on leveraging your time, because obviously by now you get that, like, there's a lot going on. When you look at the skills you're going to need at the next level of being a wellness leader, and some of you now might be like, I don't want it. Like, I'm cool where I am. And that's fine. Like, that, no harm, no foul there. Like, leadership is not for everybody, right? And that's not a problem. I mean, to some degree, it's a problem because the world needs us, and our communities need us and whatnot. But if the call isn't happening for you right now, it's okay. And it may happen later down the road. But for those of you who are like, you know what, I get that. Like, I get that there's certain ways that I need to point my attention, but I also get that I've got it within me. And I know for me, when I look back, like, I sensed in myself that I could be way more of an authority than I was. I felt like people weren't listening. I hadn't built the platform for people to really hear me. I hadn't built the system or the structure or like the step-by-step guidance. I hadn't built a good enrollment system. Like, there are a lot of things, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. There's a lot of things. How do I start? And I'll get into that in a minute and how we guide people through doing all of this in a way that makes sense and is doable and affordable and leverageable and whatnot. But what I hope you get at this point is, like, you're going to need to spend your time in an entirely different way. But then when you get back into your heart's desire and your desire to lead at the next level, the desire to develop leaders within your tribe, within your community. Why? Because the world needs us, right? Why does the world need us? Because people are fat and sick and choosing habits that engender more and more disease, right? There's a lot out there that we can help with, and we feel the care in our heart, and we feel the desire to do it. And then we can also, some of us, like, I don't know about you, but I was actually very financially motivated, knowing that if I could help other people and have an amazing lifestyle for myself, that, hey, why not? Why not learn the things that work? Because if I leverage my time, and I say this to people all the time who ask me, like, oh my gosh, you must work so much. And I'm like, yeah, I put in a 35 to 40 hour work week. Every week, 11 months of the year, more or less. I take about 4 months off throughout the year. And I have complete flexibility of schedule and whatnot, right? But I work. And some of you might want to leverage your wisdom and step into wellness leadership at a different level. But many of you also don't want to run a $1 million business, right? You might want to just go to 6 figures or something, and that's cool too. So you just know, like, for yourself where you're at, and then you can build that accordingly, right? So in any case, leveraging your time, as you can see, is going to become important no matter where you're at and what you've circled on your piece of paper. So let's break this down. You have growing needs. As you're evolving, your needs change. So you want to take into account what is the best use of your time. As you get more into your planning and strategic issues, right, and you have more of these annual priorities, quarterly planning, goal tracking, you're going to see, like, you're doing things now that you weren't doing last year. That is the nature of evolution. So we get that we have growing, changing needs in terms of how we spend our time. Maybe we need to develop our system. Maybe we need to develop our enrollment system. Maybe we need to build our tribe, etc. There's certain things that we're going to need to do. Now, project management, oh my gosh, in the yoga health coaching tribe, I see again and again how many people come in not knowing anything about project management and leave being really effective at managing their own projects. How? Through using a good project management tool, through having accountability, right, with their own calendar. You guys remember when we did that? That's going to be back here. We went into calendar integrity under goal tracking. Yeah, that's not going away. As we get better at goal tracking, we notice that having tools, certain tools are going to help a lot. In a project management tool, an online scheduling tool, there's certain things that you can get away with for so long, and then they start to shoot you in the foot. Okay, task batching. Task batching is possible when you know what your strategic issues are, you know where you should be spending your time, you have calendar integrity, and you're managing your projects well. Now, at some point in here, you start to notice, like, wow, I'm spending my time doing all this stuff, and I have a really good system for it because you've been building your systems. And then what happens is you notice, like, I could hand this piece off really easily, and that's how you know you're ready for a virtual assistant. Not everyone listening to this call is. Some of you already have a few virtual assistants and you already get that. So you might get ready for, like, wow, I need a project manager. So there's always going to be the next level of this. Some people have a project manager and then you need an integrator, right? There's different levels of it. But what we get is that at some point we hand off the things that are not the best use of our intelligence and our excellence, right? Yeah. Okay. So that is my overview. That is let me just shrink all these guys down. That is your wellness leader mind map. I know I raced through it. I was trying to get through this in an hour. I did my best. Own your wisdom, guide your career, lead your tribe, plan and be strategic. have a system for enrollment, leverage your time. Those are the skills. You can't lead without those skills, not at this next level. So I hope that helps you. And my quick next step is pretty simple. Like if you want to know how we help people with all of these different systems, that whole thing we just walked through and what you'll learn today with the 6 different massive components for wellness leadership, is we have a community. We have this amazing community of yoga health coaches. We have a 15-month training program that walks you through so that you can up-level your income. Here is one little map of how people are often making money and then start making money in a different way once they add the yoga health coaching system. And what we find is that, having the step-by-step process and structure, having the guidance, having the mentoring, having the peer support, and having just a simple, like, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do next. This is what we need to do next. That it's awesome. And I have to say too, like, this picture makes it seem like guys aren't welcome. We have some awesome men in yoga health coaching. They just haven't come to the most recent retreats, which include photo shoots. Yeah, that's how it goes. So you can learn more. Just go to yogahealthcoaching.com/apply. And what'll happen after you do that is you'll end up on one of these lovely ladies' schedules. This is Alex Biondo here on the left and Grace Edison over on the right. And they're amazing people to talk to, because not only do they help enroll people in the courses, but they've also been through the yoga health coaching training program. They're both on the path very close to certification. I can't wait for you two to get certified. Hopefully that's coming shortly. And I can't wait for you two to become certified shortly. And it's just awesome to see, you can talk to someone who's really been through it and who can speak through experience what's happening. And we have lots of support materials and future webinars as well that you can watch, including the What is YHC, or What is the Yoga Health Coaching webinar, where we really go through, like, step by step exactly how the training works and how you learn the systems and the structure and how you learn all the hard things that we just went through on the webinar today. So if that sounds good, again, you'll go to yogahealthcoaching.com, apply. And like I said, we're going to stay live here for 30 minutes for some live Q&A coaching. And so I'm glad that you're here, and stay on the line, and we'll jump right in. Oh, and I just want to show you one more picture. Like this I love this picture because this is a retreat. Here, see, there's men, right? There's men involved. This is in the Tetons. We hold 2 annual retreats a year for the members of all courses, including all the yoga health coaches are invited to come. And this is a huge part of why it works, is having the peer support, having a mesh network to grow with. It's really a huge part of our structure. Okay, on to Q&A.